And now I deliver the floor to Andreas Schwab, hopefully being connected with us in Brussels.
Absolutely well connected. Thank you so much, Professor Lammert. Thank you so much, Mr. Kutzev, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure that we can do that tonight via PC as an online format. I was last year with you in Berlin. I have a very positive memory on this. Unfortunately, this time we are distant, but I think the topic is that important. And I'm very grateful for lots of you that have been following the developments, that I feel a lot of proud and pride that I'm with you today again. Because as Mr. Lammert has mentioned, and as a former scholar of the Konrad-Adenauer Foundation, I'm very proud that you have taken the leadership for discussions for the organization of such a conference to exchange and to assess about how open our economy is in the 21st century under digital conditions. And I think Mr. Lammert has rightly referred to history. I always refer not so much to the 1st of December 1989, which is a very nice example that competition in history always has to be reassured, has to be confirmed. I refer all the time to the introduction of the social market economy principles in the Federal Republic of Germany in the 60s of the last century, which have taken into consideration all the negative effects of an oligopolistic part of the German economy in the 20s, which has also led our democracy in Germany to be falling apart because economic interests that were too dominant have in the end not allowed for democracy to make its real choices. Because they have allowed the Nazis to come to power, although they never had a majority. And therefore, I think it's so important for us in Germany, and we share that with our European neighbors a lot, that the more open an economy is, the more open also a society can be, and vice versa. And therefore, we have to make sure, and we will do, and I will outline how we do it at the moment at European level, we want to outline that our principle of the Western societies in Europe is openness, democracy, fairness, and the possibility for opportunities for everyone. Like that, we give to any citizen the chance to feel ownership in an economic sense, but also in a political and a societal area. And this is of utmost importance for modern societies in the 21st century. I would like, because last year we had already the chance, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss a bit about the pros and cons of the proposal of the European Commission that was just about, I think, to come out, or maybe it was already on the table in December of last year. This year we can, and I'm very grateful to all colleagues that have contributed to this. This year we can already consider the text as it has been voted in committee under my leadership. And I'm very happy that it has been possible in quite a fast time to move this file to the plenary vote on the 16th of December. And we do hope that by the end of March of next year, we will have this text finalized. So the Commission has presented quite good proposal that was in a lot of areas very well thought through. However, it was also clear that some changes were needed. And these changes that I thought were needed show also a bit what the European Parliament, what me as a rapporteur, I would say we have achieved. The most important point with that regulation is that it's quite a heavy regulation. It's quite bureaucratic because it sets rules that companies have to respect and apply before even they start their business activity. Normally in a modern market economy, we want to try the utmost to put away red tape so that companies can grow and flourish easily. Here, in a certain sense, we do the inverse. And I think this is a difficult decision for politicians because we see how much innovation digital companies can bring to our societies. We see how much connection can be created by intelligent and fair platform work on news and media. But we also see that if things are not going 100% in the right direction, there is a big risk of putting democratic societies in a difficult situation. And that's in any event what we want to avoid. Therefore, I think we have been happy to achieve a much better focus on that law, applying only to the very large platforms. I would have even loved to have a even higher threshold and even more precise scope of this regulation, because based on market capitalization, we are in a very dynamic area, and what we define today as the threshold will already be 10% higher in 1 year, because digital markets, digital companies in capital markets are growing that fastly that probably we are still a bit too little. But in any event, we were able to shift from 65 to 80 billion as a threshold for gatekeepers to be designated. Secondly, I do believe that this regulation has achieved to make everything possible to put the European Commission, the European Regulatory Authority, on the same level as the gatekeepers, at least technically, at least as an authority, because in manpower, the gatekeepers are by far bigger. I have just learned some days ago that only the legal department of the company Apple has more than 900 people, whilst the European Commission's digital market unit or director general in the future will have around about 80 people. So not even 1/10 of one of the gatekeepers will be the manpower of the European Commission. And therefore, it's very important that the European Commission can speak to the gatekeeper at the same level, at arm's length, and can impose the rules that the lawmaker will now vote for. That means that we have made easier the application of structural and behavioral remedies. We have made easier the application of do's and don'ts in Article 6 and 5. And also we have created an anti-circumvention clause, which should make easier that these rules can be applied with strength and authority. And then the third element that I would like to mention is that also we made clear that although merger policy and competition policy at European level are based on the principle of unanimity, that with the DMA, there will be also a need for the European Commission to make sure that mergers of gatekeepers fall under an element of closer eye, are considered more seriously, because we don't want to see the bigger always getting bigger without getting better. We want to very clearly say game over to unfair trading and business practices that are just there to capture the market without bringing advantages to the users. And like that, I think we can really believe and make sure that we do good to the European, but also to the worldwide economy, because in the end, what Europe will do in the area of digital markets, as we did already with the General Data Protection Regulation or the NIS Directive, Network and Information Security, these are tools, as the DMA will be, that will be taken up in other countries of the world, because a lot of countries like Japan, for example, or Indonesia are looking to Europe and want to see how we deal with that difficult question of making digital markets fairer and more competitive. And therefore, I believe that we have a unique chance as European Union to create something to make the life in the world better, to make the worldwide economy more competitive, and therefore also bringing more results to businesses and a better environment to consumers. And that's in the end, and Mr. Lammert has referred to that, that's in the end the sense of policy. We are not here to wait. We are here to act, to improve the world, to improve the life, to improve the economy in the interest of all our citizens, not only of the rich ones, not only of specific ones. We are here for everyone to defend the principles of the freedom and Western democracy. And therefore, I think if we manage to keep that together, as it seems at the moment, the proposal of the European Commission is a very good tool to fight unfairness in digital markets. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to close this short keynote. I will not speak to you too much about details. Maybe we'll pick them up in the debate. It has been a pleasure for me to participate again. And I would like to thank again the Konrad-Adenauer Foundation for a very strong leadership on this question of how strong we can fight for openness and fairness in digital markets. And it's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much.
Dear Andreas, many thanks for your overview. I think there were quite dynamic days behind you, and I believe that we're going to have a success in the coming weeks, and we are going to adopt finally the DMA during the French presidency. I have one question for you from Louis Crofts from Emilex. Would you have a couple of minutes for us? He would like to know where will be the main battlegrounds in the trialogues on the DMA? Which areas will need compromise?
Well, it's very difficult to speculate at that moment in time about what problems may come up in trialogue. Obviously, the European Parliament is in a very positive situation, in a very good position, because we don't need to close this by the end of March. This is the French presidency who wants this, and we are supportive of it. But we also want to make clear that we have gone through that proposal with a lot of seriousness. I think all my colleagues in the Internal Market Committee and in the European Parliament in general have been looking very seriously of what can be achieved and what we should better not to try in the DMA, because there are also other laws that will come later, like the Digital Services Act. And therefore, we will defend all our positions that we have taken. We will defend the scope. We have to focus on bigger companies. We will defend the rules in Article 5 and 6 that are very tough. We will defend also the move to have a better look on mergers in digital markets. And we will for sure also defend the European Commission's role on interoperability that can be imposed and has to be improved, and on the application of General Data Protection Regulation, also as a tool of the Digital Markets Act. Because what we see is that there are 2 or maybe 3 companies that just collect all the data in the internet and sell it to others. And this movement is a one-way street, because there is no competition here. There are 2 competitors that have shared the market in between them. And all this has to be fixed with the DMA, even though there might be national authorities, national competences at stake. We have to do that out of one hand by respecting for sure the important role that national authorities have been playing and will also play in the future.
Thank you very much. Maybe the very last question. Professor Lammert mentioned that we have published last year, and you remember we have discussed the study by Marsden and Podzun, Restoring the Balance to Digital Competition. We've learned that yesterday there was a compromise for the Data Governance Act. That's also great news. What do you think? Is the DMA going to restore the balance to digital competition in 2, 3, 4 years? Your opinion on this?
Well, there are 2 elements to fair competition in digital markets. One element is the enforcement of the rules. And here we have to admit that, unfortunately, we are lagging behind, because we see that, for example, on advertisement, the data protection rules that we have made already years ago are not applied in the way it should have been done. It was thought to be for the big companies, but we have been ending up at the beginning by limiting the outreach of of WhatsApp groups of parents for data protection reasons. That was never the aim of the General Data Protection Regulation. The aim was to fight the misuse of data by the big companies. Therefore, this time it has to be better. We have to focus clearly on the real problems and not run the slippery slope of relativism down to applying it all over the place. The DMA will be applied only to the biggest companies in the market and not to everyone. So enforcement is a very important element. And here the European Union, the European Commission on one side, and the member states have to work closer and better together, because we are unfortunately seeing that we are not there where we would like to be. And then there is a competition element also in legislation. And here I think the ex ante rule that we introduced with the Digital Markets Act has for sure also some risks. But in any event, it will allow for regulators to impose the rules at a very early stage, and it will change the burden of proof from the authorities to the companies. That is something that will make authority decisions much better, much easier, much faster. And like that, I believe that in 2 years, competition will be already much better. And we see that these companies are already ahead of our laws trying to apply them, because they know if they don't, they will face difficult times. And therefore, I think it's a very good proof that if the legislator does its job, it can impose the rules also for digital markets.
Many thanks. I think when it comes to enforcement, you're talking too hard to Johnny Ryan, who is with us today. Many thanks for your time. Hope to see you next time in Berlin, and wish you lots of success in the coming weeks when it comes to DMA. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kutze.